Kathy, can you hear us currently?
You're
Awesome,
muted.
thank you. And then I'll wait.
Hi there, welcome.
I'll wait for Chris to come, and then I'll start.
We may not be on.
She's muted.
I don't hear anything in the room.
Okay, let's go. Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to call to order the, oh, this is the wrong agenda. Great. It's the town council retreat. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. The special meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission, Thursday, March 12th, 2026 at 5:30. Call to order. Lisha, you want to start?
Sure. Lisha here.
Todd.
Angela here
Charles here. Peter here.
Sheriff here.
and online.
Kathy muted still.
Kathy here.
There we go.
Great. In the room, we have Dan Enright, our town council liaison. At the helm over here, we have Ben Tribble doing the clerk's thing, and Collier and David Hunter. Right? Am I right? Yeah, okay. Sorry. All right, and it's part of staff. Any staff announcements or updates?
No announcements prior to the work sessions.
Okay, great. So we have two items for work sessions today, Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code and Land Use Code updates accordingly. And after that, we have another item. And we'll start with the wildfire resiliency. Thank you, Krista.
Actually, we have decided as staff to flip the order of events.
Oh,
And so we are going to start, and I'm very disappointed that Kathy's not.
oh,
here
we
in
are
person.
too.
But Kathy, just know that we will save this exercise for you as well and have you add to it the next time you're in Telluride. But we are going to begin with the comprehensive plan, existing conditions maps. Ben.
They're laid out here on the table. I don't know if you can see them, Kathy.
Yes, and so first, thrilled to have you all be willing to join in a special extra meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is wonderful. It lets us move things forward quickly. So this exercise was actually suggested by Kathy, so thank you, Kathy. And again, we'll have you add to it subsequently. But the idea, and we're going to spend 30 minutes on this and then cut it off. And then if anyone has more to add, they can do that on a future time. We'll keep them upstairs for additional input. But if everyone were willing to spend the next half hour looking at each of these four maps, some of them are housing maps, some are trail maps, and draw on them with the markers and pens, lots of colors, what you think are corrections, missing items, things you'd like to revise or provide input on. We will be taking those and giving them back to Ben Osterling, who works on the GIS maps for our comprehensive plan, and they will be updated accordingly. So we wanted to pause for 30 minutes, allow for that exercise to take place while we're together, and then we'll move to the next agenda item. We'll turn you off then. So feel free to
Okay.
come up and.
Want to make a note
question.
of others who have joined us. Doug Tooley's online, and Tyler Schultz is also arborist is in the audience here. Lisha.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just going on since everybody's thinking of Kathy right now because of her request for so long. But I thought, Kathy, your request was almost to go house by house together to make sure that things are labeled correctly, whether they're long-term tenants, whether short-term tenants. So are we just going and start marking, or is there organization around this? Are we talking about it in cohesion?
That's a good question. So I think what Kathy had suggested is this first map here, which outlines local ownership, non-local ownership, structures with STRs, and sort of those details. And I think when you looked at this map during a prior work session collectively, there
This
were
is the one
some.
that was labeled that we saw last time.
You
Yeah.
did. So this
And
is
corrections have been made?
corrections
Or
to the
what we gave?
extent, yes.
feedback with
Um,
incorporated.
Yeah, so these all have been revised based on all that input and now have been blown up so that you can add further input. And this is the map that Kathy was describing, adding specifics. If you're aware that one of them is marked one way and should be marked another way. I think it's that institutional knowledge that we'd be collecting, and that table is the trails.
Should label them. So this was called what? Housing.
Ben, do you happen to remember off the top of your head the title of that map?
That one has to do with the owners, renters, whatever, but give me 2 seconds.
Okay, just so I see you have a
Yeah.
legend there. Why don't we kind of gather around?
That would be great.
So it still has structures with
In
SDRs
our own
instead of breaking it
neighborhoods?
up, obviously. 'cause
Yes,
you
that's
can't-
the one that has not gotten the edits,
Okay.
but that's the one that we want you guys to find.
And then if we wanted to spread out, the second one is what?
Trails.
Trails? Okay.
Yeah, these are the local connection ones that we definitely wanted folks input on. That one's just local owned STRs.
So Jake,
The title in here,
312.
Yeah, no, just.
and the local ownership ones.
Yeah, but it's not very detailed. I think what we were trying to get down to was like the nitty gritty, and I don't think, because we don't.
I think this was like recreational
So
stuff.
I'm curious what the,
Recreation stuff?
Yeah, recreation stuff.
this is right, this is a color that's not non-local owned. All 3 units in this building are owned by.
And then this one, I think.
Yeah, two of the residential units above me are rented, but that's not, this is a local ownership, which is sort of like can be locally owned and rented. We have to try to get to the bottom of what this is supposed to.
Like this whole thing is blue. There's like Tomboy has STRs.
It had, yeah, it's about a third owner occupied. About a third,
Oh, yeah, so this was definitely.
Part-time.
Yeah.
and
On the capture, like, this is the log. I knew I read that.
Get that type of information on there
I don't know,
seems important.
yeah, so I was gonna put a sticky on that.
Yeah.
Same thing with the hiking, which is Dora's blue.
What's the right?
Exactly, that's what we talked about last time.
And that's kind of what we're still, and again.
Still-
Appreciate it.
And I don't know, Ben? You guys want to wager why that this ownership, if this is the right kind of information? And like, again, for instance, my office, a block away,
Right?
3 units, all are owned by local people. Described as non-locally owned, there are 2 renters, there are 2 units of the building, though all locally owned are residents.
Two rental
And
units?
so it can both be right, but I'm still trying to understand, is this to determine ownership? It does not mean ownership, of somebody who lives in the town of Telluride or lives, say, down valley.
So the fact
or-
that they're pulling it from the assessor's data, I wonder if that's something that like clarified, and I think.
Besides my job.
Right, it's what,
Yeah.
modeling
I
that,
think you wouldn't know
where it
where
had,
it's
like you said,
That's right.
four or five
If
different
you turn his mirror yet.
footprints.
No.
Yeah, how is it?
You got 100 units in the Telluride Lodge,
Yeah.
and they're all
We got
SDRs or whatever.
62.
Yeah.
My wife's just spearheaded the
So
internet.
what I'm gonna suggest,
The question that you're asking,
No.
maybe. we should just have a side.
yeah, so
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for finding out.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
The goal
Right.
and other maps that we had, John, like.
So-
Difference, but.
it's got businesses, right?
Where.
Business.
There is.
Some
people, yeah.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
Especially
Here, what do you think's important?
What are we trying to do? Are we really trying to
That's what
figure out
we're
the
just-
actual mix of like long-term renters? Like, are we trying to find out how many homeowners are supporting long-term locals? Or are we just trying to figure out who's just doing
Yeah.
quick flips and Airbnbs?
I feel like. the
I was
ownership
gonna-
Might be muddy, maybe is it more of like a different, like rentals and just like residential, like just accessing this in there? I don't know with that.
What I was gonna suggest is that we show what we know about if there are rentals, if there are long-term rentals, short-term rentals, homeowners, commercial, how one of the things that'd be interesting to know is how much is multi-use? And how multi-used in terms of occupation it is.
But ultimately, are we trying to find opportunities to turn things into local opportunity? Like, what is the
Could be, it's also for me a pattern that shows how much we have in
change?
town that have different uses and
Mixed
different.
use? Yeah.
Yeah, in other words, how multi-layered our community is.
But like, what is the problem we're solving? Is it because we have bad records and we want to know better granulation of like the breakdown? Or
Well-
are we trying to identify opportunities for?
When we started this discussion, like 5 years ago, it was, what do we have that's available that might be legislatively turned into opportunities for
Local housing.
local housing?
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So, but then from my perspective, that means all of these are the most affordable for local. All of these are the most affordable for locals. And we need to get down to a granular level of like, you know, because we know that the big houses aren't going to be local opportunities, but this is where we don't have the single layered granulate. I don't know.
But if we
Seems
were to
like-
capture, and that's the part too, instead of like really granular, because when we go granular, you get that weird like nuance of like things that are stacked and different.
Yeah,
If we were to like simplify.
but we're trying to identify opportunities. for
Yeah,
local-
yeah. So would it be then just like a local resident? Like is it just someone who resides here and spends time here? versus
Good
the
opportunity to,
that?
as you see those, add your notes, so
Yeah.
that we can then kind of filter and digest it
Sure,
later.
yeah.
And that might
Okay, so
inherently lead us to, all right,
whether somebody's here.
what does this tell us?
Yeah, well, in my head,
Or
what
if
I'm
they did that
thinking
last
is
year,
like,
if they
the
built-
accommodation zone is now the affordable zone. And that's also where they have the most STRs. So we have to really almost get down to the level of who has an STR and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Who would actually be open to
You know.
renting to a local long term, who's not looking to exercise an
Several
STR.
purposes for.
If that's where we're trying to identify opportunities.
Well, I think this is an
Understand.
interesting condition. So what we know about what's going on is
Yeah.
important.
Certainly helpful.
If there are some,
STRs,
and I'm sorry.
knowing where those are certainly helpful.
If there are some places that are long-term rentals,
Yeah.
we should describe how they are.
Rentals
6 months
versus owner
who's
occupied,
occupied.
another,
I've got a couple of neighbors who are ski stores.
neither of those.
Been coming for
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
Renting the same unit in the winter.
So maybe we're just doing a macro thing to identify where those
Yeah, I
opportunities
feel like
are, and then we
that
can
is
go
like,
deeper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Well,
this is
weird.
not gonna be able to show us a whole
Yeah.
lot
almost like
of detail. What do you think?
I would agree wholeheartedly. I think that's the right path and
That
you know,
dynamic nature of what
you know,
might
in
be
the
in structure.
short allotted amount of time we have,
Yeah.
the more we can throw in here, the better. Because this is an opportunity for y'all
So,
to put your
questions
Okay.
on
In your
the
notes.
map or the actions.
What if we reverse engineer
Portions of town that have
Imagine
10-year-old
what
projects
goals we might wanna set,
have been picked up or.
and because they're in that
accurately
master plan
represented.
from years ago, there was like, we wanna reach this threshold, and so we could say, we wanna reach this threshold, and so then figure out where we are now.
At a juncture such as this
Yeah.
is a.
And then identifying opportunities to help us get to the close the gap, right? Or-
Yeah, that might be a third.
yeah.
Somebody that updates, like somebody.
These are existing conditions and, you know, as we've looked at these maps, that's been kind of a recurring theme. Individual buildings have unique nuances. So if we can.
Kathy's got her hand up.
I was gonna say,
All right, how can we
Madam Chair, there's.
Did you want to
Kathy.
contribute to the conversation?
Yeah. I can barely hear you all. I tried to turn my thing up. What we did with these, we should have these maps going back to the 90s. And we had a perception that our town was getting darker and that neighborhoods were getting much darker, especially residential neighborhoods, and that we were losing our sense of community. And I think what we really found when we did these colorings every few years was that we were staying at 60% full-time occupancy, whether it's owner occupied or long-term rented. And that gave us reassurance. But what we also saw is the light neighborhoods and the dark neighborhoods were moving around. And that also gave us, information about how do we get the lights on in every neighborhood, not every light, but enough lights on in every neighborhood. So I think that's why we're doing this map.
So can we assume that local owner means that they're full-time?
No,
Yeah,
Not at all.
but there's nothing that says long-term.
then we establish a new category.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the kind of information we should
Be
put on.
collected, okay.
Especially if you live in a neighborhood, you're gonna know what's going on probably more than say I would if it's not my neighborhood. Todd and I kind of live in the same one, but we don't live in the same complex, so it's a whole
Another
different
situation.
deal. And so I think we need another color that says, multiple ownerships and multiple situations. Like Todd said, a third owner occupied or long-term rental. I broke it down to 73% STRs, 10% long-term rentals, less than 10% owner occupied, and the rest are part-time, 2 months to 6 months. They could be, in some cases, one unit, for instance, was rented all winter. But they didn't own it. They, just occupying. We get a lot of that kind of thing in the summertime. Some of the owners do the same thing. So there's what that's, does to a neighborhood is there's a lot of coming and going. We have 62 units, for instance. We have 41 parking spaces. So it's like, we use chairs down there, and there may be some others in here, like the White House and some others that I'm not familiar with that might have that same combination. Somebody else might be able to contribute that same kind of thing.
Well, and here's this particular house is shown as non-local owner. They have an ADU above their garage that is, they haven't rented.
Right.
Well, this I think does highlight some of the challenge here.
Yeah,
And then how do we weigh with what you're saying with making sure that this map is still meeting the need and is legible and is actually serving an informational function? Because I think if we add what we're not there yet, but how many more colors do we need? And then
Right.
what does that actually tell us when we look at this map?
yeah. But back to the original question, what are we trying to?
Yeah.
Where are we trying to take it?
Yeah.
Well, would we want
And I
to
know
know?
there was one of the other maps that the other Ben showed last time, showed all of the
Rentals versus.
ADUs and ECUs.
Yeah.
But it didn't show whether they were occupied or not.
Yeah, and the data was not great, so we tried to simplify just from like rental versus ownership. I think the biggest concern is like the data is really bad, and then like we are
That's the
collecting.
takeaway.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
But like, how do we then? Because like we're a small room of people here. With like you said, you have your neighborhood you might know, but like, how do we really create just to be an accurate representation for the whole town if we're just like collecting points from people and.
And that might be part of it is, taking what is the colors that are existing and, is enough to, this because you live in there,
Mhm.
the neighborhood verifying, hey, is this actually correct? If it's not correct, based on the colors that exist, why not? Or what needs to be added to that?
Kathy has her hand up. I don't know if she wants to say anything.
She's had it up. I don't know if it's
Sorry.
more.
I was gonna say, so Kathy, you said last time that there was a certain percentage of colors that you were looking at. Because right now I'm assuming that the orange is not what we want to see because it's dark. Is that right? Like the
Sounds right.
non-local owner? Is that a bad thing to see?
Yes, I mean, we started these maps when we did not have enough short-term rentals going on while we wanted them in the condominium zones like AC2 in particular and maybe commercial. We didn't have enough or, they were sitting there empty. So I think we want to know which ones are sitting there empty and maybe they're empty, 9 months a year, maybe they're empty, 12 months a year or whatever. But I'm also still angry from the last meeting when I've gone out of my way to have 2 long-term rentals that it could be, I could be doing something else with, that I rent to workers at a very reasonable rate. And I got colored the evil short-term rental color. And I might never recover from that. So I want to make sure we have those 2 colors very different from each other.
Yep.
Kathy, at least your buildings are where they're built. I think that's a start. The color can be
I
changed.
can't hear you. You have to yell. into
There's
the
a mic right
microphone.
there if you want to speak into it.
We can change the color.
So at least the buildings are where they're built. So that's a start.
Well, that is a start, yes.
So what I heard was that we're trying to not be so dark and find opportunities for renters, right? That
Well,
kind
I think if we put some, if we have long-term rentals, we have short-term rentals, and then owner occupied, that means we have a really great mix
Mix.
of local and visitor. And from that, you can say, okay, we have locals that like to live there or can live there.
of,
Maybe some of the SGRs can become full-time.
yes,
That makes it more of a neighborhood if that's a
Right.
goal.
yeah.
If there's long-term, or if there's owner occupied, it says something about that as well. Now, that's not the only thing it says,
Sure.
that's what it says to me.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. I might have to rein you in a little bit there. I certainly have my own feelings and thoughts on all of these topics, and I think we are likely in alignment. I have not heard direction from the rest of council to be examining ways to reduce the amount of short-term rentals. That feels like
But there
beyond the
is-
scope of what we're trying to accomplish
But
with
there is
a revised master
to
plan.
amount of long-term rentals.
Or conversion, maybe opportunities, is that identified?
That's what I'm seeing, not necessarily, you
Not so
know,
much against STRs, but opportunities to convert them to
yeah,
long-term. Yeah.
if they make sense.
So one thing that I will point out, all of this north of Colorado, there are different licenses. It might be an STR, but they're only allowed 3 STRs, short-term rentals a year, and then 3 long-term. So I would say that needs a different color too, because that's completely different. It's only 3 short-term rentals, not like an STR
Right.
that's like constantly rented.
Right, and over here, in what is it, the Telluride Edition? There's a maximum 30 days that you can rent your place.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it has to be, occupied.
Okay.
Is my
so those
understanding.
are
But
different.
zoning is slightly, I'm not sure about those restrictions, but I know you can't do it, you are
Yeah.
restricted to a certain number of days.
Well, I guess
per
my
year.
point is if we're trying to look for opportunities and half of the map is actually restricted to 3 short-term, 3 long-term, in my eyes, that's an opportunity to get some long-terms in there because they're really not looking to like turn and burn all the time. They might secure a 6-month lease for a guest because they're only here for a couple months. So if that's what we're looking for, there's different
Well,
strategies, right?
there might be all kinds of different things if we knew what we were looking at. That we could derive from that.
Time.
Yeah.
Again, I would.
I would think long range, we would want to encourage people that were short-term renting to consider renting 6 months for one season and then short-term rent in their other season. There are places north of Colorado Avenue that are zoned for short-term rentals. So you've got to be careful. It's not a straight line.
Yeah, it's not
down
all, yeah.
Colorado
I was
Avenue. It
generalizing.
sinks all over. And I also think we used these maps in the past to make recommendations to town council about changing the employee housing mitigation level to maybe at what level do you have to build a unit and what kind of construction and how much, what percentage should you be paying if you're buying out, so this just helps us visually see some of the changes so we can generate housing, long-term housing for employees by seeing the colors change over time. And I'm sorry we can't find the old maps and use the same colors and then be able to go back 30 years and see what's happened.
I think the original tone was mainly around like the phrasing of the hollowing out of Telluride.
Yeah.
Even if it's, I think there's been a little bit of like hyper focus, which should be, but like short term, long term, or even like second homeowners. The real goal is just like, where are we actually housing people in the region currently? And being able to see that difference in colors quickly for the other ones, and then hopefully opportunities for
Yeah, but
I
now we
don't-
have like 4 different types of rental licenses. And
Yeah.
so they're not really represented accurately, so you're not really seeing the actual usage correctly or the
Yeah.
opportunities that exist. So I guess it's a layered.
And I guess I'm not as educated on this, and I would be happy to, if there's a difference between the rentals periods, though, from a local standpoint of someone who wants to live here or whatever, what is the benefit of those different periods of time, and do people actually access them in the region to like?
Like, there's definitely a winter season and definitely a summer season that people actively seek out. And then the shoulder seasons are definitely kind of like shell game where people are changing all the stuff. So I think we do have seasonal workers, if that's what you're.
That do use
Yeah.
those rentals, the short.
Oh, good.
Well, that's what
I mean-
that's what I'm wondering though.
Well, and that's where I guess I'm getting at, because if you have a short-term rental, it's not worth it to actually rent to a local because you're gonna make so much money on the short terms. But if
Quickly,
you go to the restricted ones, you might have see some more opportunities because they're not allowed to have that many rentals.
Mm.
So those are the people that I would approach because they're actually capped.
Mm.
So they might be more open.
Yeah.
To doing that.
Curious here, Owl Meadows is 8 buildings, 30 units. I lived there for 10 years. There's a lot of, I would say a third of them are probably locally owned and occupied. I'm gonna say a third are out of town owners, rentals, and anyway, it's a mix. I see one of these buildings is STR ownership, and that's 5 units. This is
Yeah, put down that kind of data, just like Todd and I've done for Tyride Lodge, and you have a unit in Viking as well. Feel free to add.
Well, you kind of marked it already. I assume I get counted in the 10% there somewhere.
Yes.
you know, labeling connectors right now, or?
All right, and do you want us to correct individual?
Yeah, I mean, the
Yep.
data is only good as where we can pull it from and what we can get from.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I hear what you're saying. I just have to be, especially now, more careful than ever of like, I am here to represent the village council. And
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying, but I don't like, I don't feel like I have the direction
Yeah.
currently. So.
Bike route as a lane, or like share as there's a. I would love to.
This is a graphic thing. This is kind of in combination. This is like
Cycling.
Lulu City out of
I mean,
4.
usually
Yeah, it's
most
close to
people
a mix.
that
We're trying to
below,
be a
you get
mix.
share.
Is my
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, we don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows, something, we
don't have
Yeah,
that,
it's also,
we don't have that
you know,
many
with the
choices.
notes.
Well, that's what I was saying, right?
Yeah.
Every time I hear project plans, there's a lot, this isn't just you, but like other.
Because I think
people
in
bike
perception
lane,
that
speed
this,
limit.
this
It would just
neighborhood
make sense
is
that we at least
local
have, like, a
occupied,
corridor
not
could make it
necessarily
more accurate,
majority,
but like not a
but
protected.
it's by no means all short-term rentals,
right.
or long-term, rental.
Well, in my eyes, everything that's blue up here is an actually an opportunity because they're only allowed 3 short-term rentals.
Yeah,
Like-
it was like zone,
So-
yeah. I mean, cause they are so wide.
I thought it was as many as you can get, as long as you aren't doing more than 30 days a
I mean,
year.
in Denver,
Well,
you've
that's
got
different,
corridors,
That's in
where it's 40
okay.
miles an hour, and
Historic residence.
the zone is
Historic residential.
that middle lane, and most of the time you have the parking.
And
which helps
short-term,
push
anything
people
in 30
inward,
days and
and you've got whatever, I'm very
Yeah,
much.
but if you have.
More
Do
than
a
6.
6-month rental, and that's one rental.
Yeah, so the long term's less concerning.
Mhm.
I always thought the short terms were kind of.
Yeah.
You just had that edge line,
Yeah,
and the bikes would.
No more than 30 days a
Yeah.
year,
Where they.
but you're saying that's the case, but no more than 3 separate rentals, not 30 individuals.
But then
Gotcha.
there's, the parking.
And then 3
there's no
long-term
buffer
show up.
for car doors.
yeah.
And then there's other restricted licenses
Yeah,
now
the
that you
difference in
can
materials.
30 days, and that's a different cost.
You know.
And then there's
Yeah.
Literally.
and then there's this long-term license, not STR.
I definitely think it would be fun, and I agree though, like if we.
If that's what we want to get out of it, is like trying to figure out where the
Access to these locations, but if there were
people with the traditional
corridors where
STR
people
are not gonna
were
go into
actively in them
renting
more often and
because
activating
they're
them, I think that would be
too
something to.
they're allowed to rent
pursue.
too much.
Well,
That might be the result of.
that's what I thought.
This,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
Hired.
To do
More
the.
informative,
Oh, for
to
the,
show us how the people that we could
Sorry.
possibly incentivize to.
I mean, that's the information I would expect to
Yeah.
hear back from them.
Yeah.
Pacific Avenue is the main, it's the main local corridor back and forth.
Yeah.
Because it's flat.
Oh.
You go up to Columbia and it's like, what the?
No,
Not
like-
as safe. This
I would
is
also
such a.
like to see the ones
it's
that
a-
have 80.
So many children live here. This is where they go to school and this is where they go to school. There should be like
some sort of
a
designation.
major proof. Yep.
Mhm.
Situation for these kids
The
to
feet on.
walk and like with
Mhm.
major crosswalks,
Mark that
illumination,
on
like.
miscellaneous.
I think that's perfect.
And a
Right.
bridge across Colorado Ave, so that it doesn't slow down traffic that's going in or out.
Yeah, like a underpass, right?
Well, at times it's impassable.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
so
Well,
you
it helps
have-
now
if you
they have
had
a
emergency-
crosswalk person.
Totally, but if you had emergency vehicles, there are times, many times, at
Yeah,
7:50 to 8:15 in the morning when you're stuffed.
Mhm.
Cars are stuffed going in and out, kids are crossing in front, right? So that is really a.
At what point, right?
Right
Yeah,
at, right
at the
at the
car.
market,
Yeah.
right at the market, yeah. right there.
I would be all for getting us a bridge, but I think Hark would have a heyday around the visual,
Many people are concerned about the gateway to town.
Yeah.
And the visual impacts there.
yeah,
So,
but
an underpass would be
expensive as hell.
expensive as hell, but politically easier to.
Yeah.
That's to me what you're doing is.
Which is funny, cause to think of like,
Where people are-
coordinating the logistics around that
There's no.
during,
Mhm.
it had,
Oh,
it
yeah.
had to be during like shoulder season and
Yeah.
like
Well, they
everyone
park
go
there.
away for like however long.
I don't live there, so. I-
We'd have to like do rotating
There's
traffic
Yeah, yeah.
on Pacific to
To
get
get
out.
to this.
Yeah, it would be.
Nobody's,
And there'd have to just be a person there to do like 10 people.
you're coming
They
from
do,
far
just like north of Montford.
or something where your
Redoing all.
Yeah.
car is stopping.
Mm.
You're
'Cause
gonna
that's
have to
what-
scout parking in here.
Yeah.
Cause there's
But-
no.
Bridge and.
Yeah, but so you're trying to.
Dual laning it.
Well, maybe,
But-
Have
maybe
you
what,
ever drive,
maybe
like, have you all been
you
back to
can
Denver and it's,
say something like
it's
congested,
like, if you take the 285, like Gunnison route, like the south way, there's a high school.
Right.
Like, near-
Oh, yeah.
There's a high school, they have a bridge,
Yeah.
and like every time I see that,
Right.
I'm like, I get excited by it, and I'm like, oh, this would be a great idea if we could do something. And make it like more of a,
so people will walk.
like the whole like,
this.
game,
Anyway,
it's like
well-
pump and flare, where it's like something that people are like, okay, we're proud of this versus like some geeky
What
thing, where
color
people are like,
did you
this
use
is
for your
terrible, but.
from the other-
Sure.
Guys, we have 5 more minutes. Make sure you scribble
up.
everything, and please ensure it's legible.
Not made it to the map. Just something that I noticed it, I have a senior in high school.
Oh,
I've
no,
been
no,
here
no.
his whole life.
When should we
well
put it on
known,
the
it's
other?
well agreed upon,
Oh.
that it's a problem.
Lance has been working on this.
That was.
Zip line.
Yeah, there's like, works on something. I think we'll leave it for now, but I
It would
know.
be incredibly.
Angela,
I have,
were you guys
I
having
have
a
not been given.
conversation around that connector at the Mountain Lodge?
Yes,
I understand
Yeah,
that it-
where's that in the works right now?
Yes,
well, there's
it would
one
be.
that's planned.
major.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then-
Um,
They're gonna like actually spend.
yeah,
Probably.
planned
reasons.
connector over here. We have to get Mont Village
Yeah.
on board.
Okay, but there's.
There's an easement for it. And it's, the Forest Service as well.
Mhm.
It bypasses a couple of, mines,
Line claims.
mine claims up there. But it would,
So is it,
it would be great. It would be walking only. It wouldn't be bike.
Yeah.
It was flagged.
that,
what
that
Jurassic
It was
was
flagged
trail that there now?
5 years ago.
Is that what that is?
No.
Is it PBR, is that like where the?
There's.
PBR trail?
That's what they call it. I don't know what, so it's betting.
I thought that
Goes
was
by-
off of Camel Start.
No, no, that's
Charles,
Split
right?
Rock.
Yeah. Charles is right.
Split Rock, but
Yeah.
this is,
That's PBR and Cave Trail.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the workflow would be, because like you have a couple, you know, the neighbor. Like, how do we reroute parking up at Bridaldale and making it like way more friendly for people to actually like wanna go up it, not have to.
It's on Forest Service.
There's a parking situation and like no one actually shuttles up there, but it could be interesting to
TFT.
figure a way to do some sort of,
And the other one,
access only, so the people have to live there and then, I don't know, whatever that choke point is, but yeah, that's not in the scope. of
oh, and this one's Schools, not.
county
Yeah.
collaboration thing. I think that would be something in the works.
So. This is.
I had a lot of money on me.
Yeah.
Anything else we want on this? We just sort of curious what it do for us.
Do we want the Nordic Trails as a major rec site? Or is that over there?
Yeah, I really,
I don't know.
May as well just bring it all the way to the end. And
I'll just
keep it
say,
active.
you know,
have a bunch of their properties in a trust, which is sort of
That-
gotta be.
Yeah. But didn't they do that big disclosure thing recently where you had to,
I don't,
We're looking at.
you had to notarize all your trusts and get identification?
This is off the river trail here, under the railroad train.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
This is.
We have 2 minutes, folks, madly scribble, and then it's pencils down. This is, I believe, miscellaneous and open stuff, so.
in your 3 minutes.
I think we might need to do this again when Kathy is physically here, because this is just a start.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Kristen mentioned, we're gonna hold on to these maps, so if you.
Six
do wanna come back
locally
to this.
Add some things, yeah.
And
Civic.
400, 500 civic.
have some time to focus. on it.
I wonder if you're right. I wonder if it's a trust thing that it's.
Cause I know in
Is that
they own like
transportation?
cluster.
Hmm.
And dad might not live here most of the time, but he
Because
spends
by
his
the
summers.
mailing address of the trust, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah. Peter, would you put a sticky on there somewhere that says identify
Ownership.
occupied/unoccupied ADUs and,
Oh, wow.
unoccupied ADUs.
yeah. There are a bunch of them, particularly ones that were built before the most recent.
Seconds, 30 seconds, and then pencils down, please.
Affordable housing guidelines that
Don't have to, yeah.
they don't have, they're not
Not saying
forced, yeah,
Because wasn't there,
they're not required to.
and I thought it was also like when the house is built, you're able to opt to have the fine or pay the whatever. But then when the house is sold, that doesn't, that's
All
not a
right,
requirement.
that's time, everyone. Thank you for being.
Whole mishmash of that.
What's that?
There's a whole mishmash, some are one way, some are another way.
So Kathy, turn it again. So we can kind of look at what we have.
The slack of the speaker might be.
What do you want to share, Kristen?
I will.
Okay, yeah.
Your system.
Yeah, okay. Are you presenting something? Cause that screen is.
Okay,
hard
I
to
think
see.
we've completed as much as we can of our first work session.
Should take care.
Second item, second work session, everybody ready to go?
Here, yeah. Yeah, she's gonna
Yep.
sign in and then I'll share her screen.
Who's that?
Kristen.
Oh,
Yeah, 1 second.
okay, great.
Slides to guide this conversation. Thank
You
you.
need to tell jokes, fill a minute or two.
Do you want to turn perhaps? the
Go for it,
screen
Peter. I invite you,
together?
the commission's comedian.
Oh, don't touch it.
Followed closely by Todd.
Oh, maybe don't. If it's gonna turn it off, I didn't realize that. That looks
Can you
fine.
guys see the screen okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
Sort of ish.
it says do not move during,
well, it's normal.
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, I broke, I didn't ask, but nothing broke.
All right.
And we also have a few other folks who have joined.
Your-
Sam Siegel is online.
Great.
Okay,
Um,
otherwise everybody else is here that said they were here.
Wonderful. So it was really exciting to hear you all working through that mapping exercise and so much valuable information got added to the maps. I was even hearing, and I loved hearing things like the patterns of movement of children and people through town, you know, where early childhood education facilities, childcare is located and how that flow works, just movements of people and the year-round ability of having the lights on per Kathy's comment, you know, our year-round community and how that fits in and the patterns of Telluride. So thank you for doing that. We will update the maps with the consultants based on your input. And all right, so now we are going to move on to the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. I want to let you know that this is the first work session you will have on this topic. So it's introductory. I'll sort of get us into where we are now, the path forward to implementation of that code. And then we will have 2 or 3 more work sessions, depending on what we need in terms of land use code updates to implement the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. So I'm going to just pull up some slides just to update you all first. Here we go. Okay, so. Okay. Sorry, thanks for your patience with technology. All right. So first, state requirements and timelines for the 2025 Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. Senate Bill 23-166 established a Wildfire Resiliency Code Board in the Division of Fire Prevention and Control to help enhance community safety and resiliency from wildfires through the adoption of codes and standards. The Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Board adopted the 2025 Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code, CWRC, on July 1, 2025. It incorporates provisions of the 2024 International Wildland Urban Interface Code with state-specific amendments, including the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code map. And so all municipalities in Colorado are required by April 1st, 2026 to adopt the CWRC, including Telluride. The town will also need to amend the land use code and design guidelines simultaneously to ensure consistency and implementation of the provisions of the CWRC. There's a 90-day grace period from April 1 to July 1 prior to required implementation. So our work in terms of updating the design guidelines and land use code will take place this spring in order to allow for town council adoption of any amendments we recommend potentially prior to July 1st. And so by July 1st, 2026, the town will need to comply with the adopted CWRC. Just some high level, updates on the code, and then I'll get into the timeline for the work we're going to do together. So there is a map that was developed for Colorado by the Division of Fire Prevention and Control and the Colorado State Forest Service at the direction of the Wildfire Resiliency Code Board. That is here. The map layer encompasses both the current and potential wildland urban interface as defined by the International Wildland Urban Interface Code, which is geographic area where structures and other human development meets or intermingles with wildland or vegetative fuels. So they started from the Colorado Wildfire Risk Assessment Fire Intensity Scale layer from 2022, which relies on vegetative fuel data, topography, and weather conditions to generate a statewide indication of how intense a wildfire may be in a given location. This can be used to forecast the potential harm or damage if a wildfire occurs. It does not consider probability or risk of wildfire ignition. So high and moderate fire intensity classifications correspond to Class 2, draft construction and site hardening requirements, while low fire intensity classification corresponds to Class 1 draft code requirements. And crosshatched categories represent federal and tribal lands where the code will not be implemented. So there is this, oh, sure.
Yeah. I'm seeing red, yellow, orange, brown. What, what
Yeah.
1 and 2?
So here's the zoomed in version. So yellow is low intensity, white.
Low intensity, what?
Low intensity in terms of fire intensity classification.
Okay,
And
that means that there's a lower chance
So I'll
of
go-
damage, or there's a lower chance of a wildfire, or
Yes,
Yeah, you
so.
could just explain it a little bit further.
Yes, I
That'd
can
be
do that a little bit further. So it's looking at vegetative fuel data, topography, and weather conditions. It's generating an indication of how intense a wildfire may be in a given location. So that is sort of the range of colors, and it's forecasting potential harm or damage if wildfire occurs.
So yellow is better than red.
Yes, that is correct.
Where we are on that map, I can't. read any-
Yes. So here's the zoomed in
Well, it's
version.
zoomed in, but I mean,
Oh.
when you zoom out, I want to see.
Sure.
Are we right in the
So
middle?
you can,
No,
It's Colorado.
other left.
Southwest call.
oh, here we go.
Oh, that's a
Good. Thank you
Unite-
very
okay.
much.
That's the whole,
Yes.
that's the whole state.
Okay, thank you. Good to tell.
There we go. Thank you.
Barely in the red.
Look for the big red thing.
Yes. And so again, it's
Thanks, Todd.
forecasting potential harm or damage if a wildfire occurs, but it's not considering probability or risk of wildfire ignition. And so this is the zoomed in version for the town of Telluride, with yellow as low intensity, red as high intensity, orange as moderate intensity. And again, I'm just giving you
And blue or
um,
purple,
purple.
bad?
No, that's like,
Oh, those are just
Protected?
outlines of
Lines.
properties and et cetera. So those are property lines.
Thank you.
Good
Okay.
question. So then we're zoomed in the bottom corner, it's zoomed in on just Telluride itself. And so you can see the orange and red is primarily,
What causes them to be more risky?
sure, a number of variables. And what I can do as you ask questions, I think the best way for me to provide more information is to follow up on the questions I hear and get you information prior to our next work session on.
Yeah, but
March
people have already
26th.
adopted it, right?
So let me go over that part.
Todd has a question.
Sure.
Okay, so looking at this, Bear Creek and the Bear Creek Preserve
Yeah.
is red. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's canyon, water or fire goes up.
Okay. And there is, it's an extension of Virginia Placer. In the bottom right, it's sticking up onto the hillside.
Yep.
That's
very arbitrary.
that's weird. I mean, it's.
So.
It doesn't make sense to you.
And so there are a number of things you're raising here, and everything I hear this evening, or everything we hear as a team, will be brought back to you on March 26th with more in-depth responses. And so, for example, in terms of the map, this is the state map. There are opportunities if we wish to pursue them, and this would be from direction from town council to ground truth, and to do that by property if individual property owners want to do that, which is to refine and make the maps more granular. And or we could consider some broader scale mapping work. But initially, we're adopting the state map, and this might continue to be the map basis for implementation of the code. And I think I want to circle back to your questions now in terms of timeline and how this is going to work together in terms of a number of moving parts. So on July 1st, 2025, as I mentioned, the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code Board adopted the 2025 CWRC. The map is part of that. Ongoing since then, our staff on my team have been reviewing this and existing land use code and design guideline provisions. And we're working to draft proposed revisions to the land use code and design guidelines to ensure consistency and implementation of the provisions of the CWRC. We're also researching relevant resources, participating in regional and Colorado trainings on the CWRC, and this is our historic preservation team, our planning team, and our building team. As relates to specific division priorities, those are our 3 divisions, because there are implications for all of the above. By April 1st, Town Council will adopt the ordinance. So I will be going before Town Council on March 17th for their first reading and a work session, and then on March 31st for the second reading and adoption of that ordinance. So that will be in place by the state deadline of April 1st. But again, we do not need to implement for 90 days. So the state allows a 3-month grace period for training and preparing the building community and to organize info sessions if we wish to, whatever trainings we may want to do through various boards, as well as to update our design guidelines, land use code, anything we feel that will make for consistency once this gets implemented. And so from March, which is now, through mid-May, the Planning and Zoning Commission and HARC separately, perhaps also jointly, because that was also a suggestion, so I might organize a joint session as well. We'll have work sessions on proposed amendments to the land use code and revisions to the design guidelines. Staff are working to draft those, and then we'll be seeking lots of input from those bodies. And you will be making recommendations ultimately in mid-May to town council. So you'll give your recommendations in during one of our work, at the tail end of our work sessions. They'll then be brought before town council for a work session on recommended amendments to the land use code and revisions to the design guidelines. And I should say work sessions, whatever we need, in late May 2026, might go into early June. We'll see how that goes. And then by July 1st, town council would adopt the ordinance for the land use code amendments and adopt a resolution for revisions to the design guidelines.
That's July
1st.
1st. Is that a meeting date or?
No, that is
a
just by
convenience.
then.
Yeah.
By then, but that's our deadline as directed by the state.
Okay.
Now, in truth, it's not a hard deadline because we could take more time. We do have to execute though on this by July 1st. And so it would be appropriate and beneficial to have made those updates within the same time frame so that it's all happening at once and there aren't inconsistencies. So that's why that expedited timeline and why we're talking this over this evening and then working together at the next meeting 2
I
weeks
just
from
have
now.
a fundamental question.
Sure, these are great
Yeah,
questions.
Sheriff. Okay.
Yeah.
We are applying this code to new construction only?
Yes, so what I will do, I actually started to do this for you for this work session, but then I decided I'd do very preliminary discussion here and then a more in-depth in 2 weeks, is go through all of the exceptions so that you know when it applies and when it doesn't. I'll be doing the same at the town council work session
Tuesday.
next Tuesday. So if anyone's wants a preview, you're welcome to listen into that.
Okay.
But just for that clarification of when it actually comes into play, when it doesn't, there are a number of exceptions and a number of variations. So
Sheriff.
I'll
Yeah.
do that with
Yeah.
town council and then with you. Yes.
Sheriff.
I was just wondering what happened between July 1st, 2025 until now. Has the town been working on something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so staff have been doing all the due diligence in that ongoing section. So for example, initially, and this is at the state level, the code didn't allow for exemptions for historic structures. So that is something that staff were part of conversations with, our statewide peers, noting that, and then work was done at the state level to bring into this an exemption for historic structures. And then since then, we've been doing work, and I'm just talking historic preservation for a moment as an example. Historic preservation staff, myself, and team have been working with our colleagues, including in rural mountain communities, to think through the implementation of this relative to our design guidelines and our historic preservation work, including work that's being done through our input and at the state level to come up with materials lists, like recommended materials lists that could be, consistent with.
Compatible.
Yes. So lots of work in a lot of areas.
And what you've just described is a pile of stuff.
Yes.
Not to be facetious, but
Yes.
if we don't make it, what happens? Gonna send ice down here or something?
If we don't,
Or
so-
do our insurance rates go through the roof or?
we will hit the deadline no matter what for adopting and implementing this code. Then that's sort of under the building code provisions, like that this will be reviewed as part of our building permitting process. That will happen. So no issue. The design guidelines and land use code changes are very beneficial and important. But this code will take precedence over our codes in the interim if we don't meet that deadline. I believe we will, because I will say the work that's being done by staff in our organization in Telluride and then across the state, the idea is we're refining things down to a very limited and discrete number of changes that will need to be implemented for that consistency piece. And then there may be further ideas, for example, in the landscaping area. We'll do what needs to be done for that consistency. And then I think there's opportunities in our tree permitting, landscaping, even beyond what we need to do to make for improvements to the whole program overall. And that can extend beyond July 1st and be another round of amendments ultimately. And I think we all have ideas in that regard. If we could get that whole package done, including the extra things we want to see, that would be great. But we can have those discussions, do what we need to do, and then spend more time on that, because I think it's a priority that's been defined by this group, is to really work through our tree code as well as our landscaping guidelines. And
Any
so-
other questions
yeah.
so far?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Great. And so then the compliance piece, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And Ben, I know you're driving, but I also know that you have done a lot of work. So I'd love you to come sit here if you would like, as we talk about the implications for the tree permitting.
That was directed at Ben, in case anybody.
Yes, it was. What did I not say, Ben? Driver of Zoom. Come join me.
Wow, what a title, Ben, driver of Zoom.
Thank you.
All right.
It's better
We
than,
have been, as our now planning division, meeting and discussing what we'll bring forth to you on the 26th. So in a couple of weeks. And as an initial conversation, we wanted to think about landscaping and some of the areas where there are either potential conflicts with the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code and opportunities. And I thought I should tag you in because you've done a lot of thinking on this for us.
Yeah, it's mainly, I mean, we've talked about this, the preservation of, oh, I don't have to. That's fine. I'm gonna wing him. Hi, everyone. This has been Triple Planner 2. No, so we've talked about like from the comp plan perspective, preservation of like identity as well as like nature, et cetera. And so there's quite a bit from the land use perspective where there is a lot of conflict. I think the biggest one is within the wildfire safety code. Basically, you're able to maintain trees with a DBH of 10 inches. So like a very mature, large tree. I couldn't, this is a very young tree right here, but
What do you mean you're able to maintain?
So if you,
If you have a single family or you have an.
well, so they,
an application.
yeah. So I'll lightly tell about this. I'm not a professional at this, but you have these different zones of protections near structures. And within these zones, there's specifications of what you can have within them. One of the big ones is within, I think the closest zone of protection is like 0 to 5 feet. Don't quote me on this, but when you're really close to the house, you shouldn't have like ladder fuels, trees, et cetera. But in that, if you have a very mature tree, you're allowed to keep them. It doesn't have to get chopped down immediately kind of thing. But because of that 10 inches in a very, like that's a very old tree. In our code, we have around cutting down trees permits from sizing from 3 to 6 inches. So younger trees, but we want people to like not cut down that size. And so there's a conflict there where people might want to cut down trees at will versus really maintaining our current forestry. And so that's a really large concern for us within those kind of protected
Can you
zones.
explain the zones of protection first?
Yeah.
And if this is putting you too much on this.
It's not putting me too far. I can lightly tell you about this. So there's 3 different zones and different dimensions. I will loosely say, I think it's 0 to 5 feet from a structure. You're basically not supposed to have anything there. You're not supposed to have any sort of like low-lying fuels, stuff that can get to the house and spread easily.
And the ground cover should be inert, like gravel?
Yeah, so there's different levels too and language around like hardscaping, whatever. And I know later on we might pull Mr. Tyler into this a little bit, but basically you want to harden, the term is hardening these protected zones. And so, yeah, the more that you have like gravel, things that aren't considered flammable, et cetera, then you get from like 5, I think it's like 5 to 15 feet. It's a larger away from the house where they allow some shrubbery, some kind of different stuff, but you still don't want trees within a certain distance of each other where they can spread and leap and then cross that boundary. And then you got this crazy one, which is basically, I think it's like 15 or 20 feet to 300 feet. It's this huge arch. And, you know, I don't know if you've known this, but Telluride has lots on top of each other. And so once you start getting into these zones, you have a very large radius of intersecting zones from those 15, and that's zone 3. And so basically in zone 3, you're allowed to have trees, you know, they want you to maintain ladder fuels, which is like 0 to 15 feet. I think it's not
So
15
we're
feet.
talking no trees within 15 feet of any building in town,
I think what we'll do,
if it's under redeveloped.
there are a number of clarifying elements to that we can, what I will do is we will put together, as I'm listening to the questions and what we're sharing as a very preliminary, in 2 weeks, we'll bring you visuals. I think that would be very helpful of sort of those zones
Yeah.
and then what applies within those zones. And we can start to illustrate that.
No, I
'cause
think that's
we
great,
need
yeah.
To do that for the community
Yeah.
more broadly. So
Because
I think
as
that would be
everybody
helpful.
knows, we have 3-foot setbacks, right? And that's 6 feet. And that's, you know, that's barely over 5 feet, so we would have nothing between buildings. And the implication is pretty serious. If we keep what we have, and it's just applied to new or remodels,
If they're up over a certain percentage.
Right.
So there are
Right.
all these exceptions
which is
that we'll review with
a
you.
lot of what we see, because we pick up buildings, move them, do a basement, bring them back. Did through this week, actually.
Yeah.
There's, that has long-term implications. So a visual, I think, would be really helpful.
Okay, great.
And that's the kind of thing that would inform, you know, what the land use code, and I've had people talk to me about this. Well, and at the other meeting that the Telluride Foundation had last week, they were not very clear. And they also had 5 minutes for question and answers at the end of an hour and a half. But someone said, well, the town required me to do X, Y, Z, replacement of caliper in several trees or one or whatever, if that was possible. And now you're telling me I can't do anything. So there are a lot of questions on the behalf of the public, and I assume that some of the land use code updates we may be addressing. On the other hand, if we have a barren town,
Yes.
you're gonna have people, you know, losing their minds, as they would say, at the meeting, which is what's happened statewide. So I think that's the kind of thing that we may be facing to talk about long-term.
And I think it's really, these are really important points you're raising. We want to protect community
A little
character.
louder, please.
Certainly, we of course want to protect community character. We certainly, you know, we're balancing life safety, wildfire, hazard mitigation, with all the other values of Telluride. And I think as we make those revisions to the land use code and design guidelines, we need to make sure we're compliant, but that we're also thinking through, are there other opportunities, or how can we ensure that there are green spaces? How do we work with it, with this code, but still have what we need to see
Yes.
in our community? And so I think in 2 weeks, again, this is just the preliminary touch point. What we will bring to you is, here are proposed land use code revisions based on staff analyses. We will give you those in advance in your packets. You can read them first and we can talk about them. Here are the visuals of how this will play out in terms of land use code changes that we're describing, especially in terms of that landscaping piece, our tree permitting process. And that process also needs some revision just for cleaning that up. So this might be that opportunity as well if we have time
And
to
I'd
do it all at
I'd like
once.
to interject that it's not just about landscape,
Yes,
it's about livability.
yes. And
Could I add into? So, yeah, one of the pieces that I wanted to just flag as well is basically with them allowing very mature, very large trees and not capturing smaller ones. There's language around exceptions around heritage trees. And quite frankly, we only have like 2 in town. I could be wrong. It could be
Officially
3.
designated.
Correct, yes.
There are a few more.
Yeah, I think,
We need to designate more.
yeah, but that was the part of raising that up, because if we're not hitting that diameter and it's being enforced and people are feeling pinched because of insurance as well as that mandate, finding a way to protect more in a way where it isn't harmful, but also maintains that character is a big one. And that was kind of the highlighted in that section where we only have.
Yeah,
Couple.
Kathy, you have a question, and Doug in a minute. Sheriff as well. Go ahead, Kathy.
I have to get unmuted. I had some questions and comments. Ben, it almost sounded like you said that we wanted trees from 3 inches to 6 inches, and I inferring that we didn't want bigger. Those are the sizes at which you have to mitigate and get permission to take them away. And the conifers are a smaller size.
That's
and the
correct.
Aspens are a larger size. But
Yes.
obviously, if we have a 10-inch aspen instead of a 6-inch aspen, we're even happier. But I just want to clarify that we don't want only 3 to 6 inch trees, diameter trees. I had a different experience. I went to the same program that Angela did at the Opera House, but I had a different experience when the one group that's out of Ridgeway came to Society Turn Business Center. They were much more like, oh, the aspens aren't as much of a problem. It's the conifers. So I think we need to figure out this tree species and how close they should be. The other thing, often you can lower the fire danger a lot by limbing them and having the limbs start pretty high up instead of coming down close to the ground. I think what people are going to freak out about is bushes are going to be super bad because they're close to the ground. But they were far more worried about all the conifer trees than they were any deciduous plants other than grass. And then, as most of you know, I've hated Kentucky bluegrass for a long time. So if this takes every blade of Kentucky bluegrass out of people's yards, I will be ecstatic, because Kentucky bluegrass eats up too much water. That's why I hate it. There's
Kathy,
other
I have a question.
grasses we can use. Yes.
So the folks who came to Lawson Hill were one of the presenters, I think, at the meeting we went to. That was the Western Wildfire or Regional Wildfire Council came and analyzed Lawson Hill as a community.
They analyzed my particular project that I'm co-own at Lawson. They're also doing an overall analyzation for the whole PUD. But the 2 people that came and did my analyzing were different than the one person that presented from that company or that group that night.
Okay. Interesting.
And I think the distances are 5 feet and 30 feet, and then like the 100 or 300 feet.
Okay. But you can clarify that when you do your.
Yeah, but some of the setback distances are wider than our lots, so it's very awkward.
Yeah. Sheriff, you had a question, then Doug.
Well, I wanted to mention the legacy tree, which we touched on in the last meeting, and as a additional note about our trees at this altitude are going to grow slower, and so only using the measure of the size of the tree is not necessarily fair. Like, our trees could be really, really old and not be that big.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask is, what is the best use of this meeting specifically? Because it sounds like there's a lot of information coming. And are you just trying to keep us in the loop, or is there something you need from us specifically?
Very good question. I wanted to make sure that this group had an update on how this is going to proceed prior to my coming before town council on the 17th, because I didn't want there to be surprises because I'll be talking about how this will work through our various boards. And I've touched on it with Hark and hadn't had that opportunity here. So you being informed, also letting you know that the expectation is we will be giving you an assignment between now and your next meeting on the 26th pertaining to this, because we're going to have a narrower window for a work session. We have other things on the agenda as well. So I'll try to dedicate, if we could have a full hour, but not more, where we really get into the details and you all come prepared for that discussion, that would be ideal. So this is, to your point, very preliminary, just looping you in, making sure you know what we need to do as work together, and then moving us forward to the 2 week from now deeper dive work session where we'll bring land use code updates to you for review and discussion. I hope that's helpful. I just didn't want surprises.
So you're implying we will have homework.
Yes. you
Very
will.
good. Love homework.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Doug, and this is a work session, so I'm gonna call on Tyler when you're ready as well. Any public we have here. Doug, go ahead.
Following up on Kathy Green, those people doing those site-by-site analyses, the West Region Wildfire Council, Mountain Village has a forester. The town council, if I recall right, has briefly mentioned having a forester in the town. That might be something that the commission would like to weigh in on. Having that actual boots on the ground, looking at the individual sites. Expert opinion is very crucial. The fire resistance of aspens is well known. And I don't think that's, as Kathy is intimating, is not reflected in this code. And when you look at the factors of risk, there's a temporal one, something that's called fuel load moisture content. Don't know how they measure it, but if you are irrigating your property and everything is green, that is a big plus. I think, and I'm not an expert, although I'm generally educated and experienced, if not qualified. The biggest risk to Telluride is fire embers from Mountain Village across jurisdiction, and it's a rooftop. The prevailing winds come there, fire burns up, fire embers follow the wind, and they fall down.
Yeah, they mentioned that at the meeting too, Doug. I recall that.
Cool.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we to, Tyler, you wanna?
Yeah, if you want to go.
Would you go to the microphone, please, so we can record what you're saying?
I always have a lot to say about trees. I'm Tyler
Good.
Schultz. I've lived in Ophir since 2002 and have had a arborist business in the area since the same time, called Telluride Arborist. I helped. So to give you a little history, and some of you would remember this, but back in the early 2000s, there weren't really any ISA certified arborists, people, scientists, tree scientists that worked here, people that had experience working with trees in other areas. And I was one of the first ones that came here to do that work. So I got to work with a lot of different people, and including the town. The town brought me in, and I got to help with advising and consulting on writing the current land use code that we use. Prior to that, there was a pretty like 2-sentence or maybe even 1-sentence tree removal policy that came, a reflexive action that came after all the trees were cut down at the current Wilkinson Public Library. So it really didn't help. And we leaned on the State Forest Service, this great helper, Vince Urbina, and then as well as Karen Guglielmone. She had a lot of ecosystem knowledge. And Daniel Murray at the time was in the planning department here in Telluride. And together we took like a winter to figure out how exactly to rewrite the land use code. We used some stuff from Aspen. We tried to look around to see how to be progressive. And I guess I'm here to say that I think the town needs to start being progressive again with this land use code and change it. And I didn't want to add more to your plate. I know there's a lot, but it's a really pertinent time. Not only is this code being handed down, but we have a crazy winter. We're in the midst of the driest time that any of us have ever seen here. This is real. It's not just land use code. It's real. It's making our community safer. I as well attended the meeting on March 2nd about wildfire preparedness. And one of the things they talk about is if your neighbor isn't safe, you're not safe. I think one of the big things that we need to look at, or the town of Telluride should be looking at, is how can you create a more safe city when it comes to wildfire? And right now, how you can do that is make tree removals of specific species, namely conifers, okay? There's a species list, a list of trees that are susceptible to burning and a list of trees that are not, or shrubs that are not susceptible to burning. So some of these species can be close to a house, not a big deal. An example of this would be a large narrowleaf cottonwood tree. Most of the branches are up high. It doesn't represent a large fire danger. However, a spruce tree, a conifer tree of any type, white fir, subalpine fir, bristlecone pine, they have a lot of very little twigs that never go away. They can continually die back unless they're pruned by a company like us or something, that they're totally cleaned of those twigs and foliage. But those old twigs and foliage are the perfect spot for a fire to start, for an ember to fall. And if that tree specimen happens to be close to a house within 7 feet, there's a high likelihood that if that house isn't metal, that tree will ignite the house, that could start some type of urban conflagration. And that's the big thing that Telluride should be afraid of. You have really close setbacks. I'm familiar with Ophir. We have 7-foot setbacks on a lot of our 50 by 100-foot building sites. And so our houses are 14 feet apart. That's not close enough to fight a structure fire. So when you think about trying to make a safe community, I think it really, some change could happen to the current tree code that would help each person in town create a safer environment for their neighbor. A couple points that I wrote down while I was waiting were, I really like one sentence in the land use code that gives the town not necessarily rights, but it says something that the town really cherishes the green environment that we live in. Not only is it good for mental health, but it's good for livability, as Angela said before. And this sentence is, the town recognizes that trees provide important environmental and aesthetic benefits to residents and guests of Telluride that extend well beyond the boundaries of the property on which they grow. That's the sentence that gives the town the ability to make decisions about trees on somebody else's property. The current land use code creates this hardship or hurdle to do the right thing when it comes to forest fire mitigation. And this is more like urban fire mitigation, but it's still fire mitigation. The town should make it a little easier, whether that's a specific wordage in the land use code, but the town needs to make it easier for a fire-prone tree to be removed that grows within, say, 7 feet of a home or a neighbor's home. Many homeowners that I've worked in have conifers growing right up against a neighbor's home. I could give you a lot of examples. And some of these people would rather see their twigs and their dead material so that they're screening from the sidewalk, from the neighbor's house, from a neighbor's light, whatever it is. It would be great if the land use code helped a neighbor do the right thing. So the right thing when it comes to fire mitigation would be, look, you have all this dead material. This is basically a bonfire that's about to happen. That's really close to my house. I know it's not my property, but maybe the land use code could help. There's a couple examples in the past couple of years. Manitou Lodge, an old development in town right across the river, is right up against the conifer forest. Now, those red zones that were in the map that Kristen had up, those red zones are probably vegetation related. That's probably a north-facing conifer forest with subalpine fir, Engelmann spruce, blue spruce. And those the fire that would burn in that forest is incredibly hot. The fire that would burn across a meadowy aspen forest is much different and would be controlled a lot differently. So creating space, creating buffers on those in those buildings on that north facing forest zone is really important to preserving those structures. And if you're not going to preserve that structure, i.e. the forest is right up against it and you don't have the ability to protect it, then you need to look at creating a fuel break or some type of break in that fire to the next group of buildings. These are all things that I would like to see the town think about in this possible change of the land use code. Couple other questions. One of them that was brought up at the meeting on that March 2nd, Monday. The current tree removal mitigation fees go to the tree fund. Now, when the town in 2008, 2009 designated this new land use code, the money that would go from mitigation, from a tree removal, would go into a tree fund. That tree fund money was used to help the urban forest in the town of Telluride. That was the idea, because basically we're removing some of the biomass from this ecosystem, and we want to help the rest of the biomass and the rest of the ecosystem for perpetuity, for preservation of the ecosystem that we all enjoy in Telluride, and not just to see the urban ecosystem disappear. I think it's important to try to have some urban ecosystem for livability, for mental health. Let me just go through my notes here.
Tyler, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
The tree fund, do we know where it resides now and how it's being used?
I don't know. I had known for a while, but I'm out of the loop on that information.
I can provide you with an update on status at our next
Okay,
meeting.
that would be great.
Yep.
Some of the mapping and the mapping that happened with the state, ground truthing is essential, coming from somebody that's from Ophir. We have a 200-acre meadow that's in the middle of our town. One of our residences has a lot of forest fire experience, fighting fire, hot shots, things like that. He's a contractor here in Telluride for Finbro Construction, Ryan Ellers. We're leaning on him in Ophir to really come up with a safe plan of evacuation. What if this, all these what ifs. But we feel that we were judged a little unfair. We're in the very high zone, town of Ophir. Even though we have this giant meadow that most of our houses are built in, we're also on the edge of this conifer forest, which would burn very hot. But we have some other things, like our structures are 14 feet apart, a lot of them, and we're a little bit further than Telluride away from a fire station. So the questions are, what makes higher risk, right? The ground truthing, what is the real risk? And that's an important thing to figure out. I guess if there's no other questions, I had a couple other examples, but I think that's really what I wanted to say.
Any questions for Tyler? Yeah, sure.
Tyler, what do you think about the legacy tree?
There's
Idea.
a couple, there's two of them that I know of, the apple tree that grows along the sidewalk, and then the ponderosa pine up above the wind horse, whatever is that wind
The
horse?
swing tree?
It's a survey tree.
On the east end of town.
Mhm. High east end of town.
Next door.
Next to the swing tree. I don't even know where that is.
And there's
Willow right away.
There's a whole bunch of other large Douglas firs and large ponderosa pines up there that are also super old and cool trees. It's a really harsh growing environment. Those trees are almost bonsai'd up there. They're since they don't have a lot of vegetation, they are on the edge of being healthy or not. And there's insects. Mountain pine beetle is the insect that would kill a ponderosa pine. Douglas fir bark beetle is the insect that would kill those Douglas fir trees, and they're around. So it's like a matter of time in my mind whether those trees can fight off the momentum of insects and the drier climate conditions we have. I think like Jason Seibolds, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this the
The
county.
pheromone,
Well, no, Jason Seibel did some county forestry planning
he did.
for the
yeah.
future, and it looks just hotter and drier as far as we can see. And so the long-term health of trees is a little suspect, I would say. Even the big old ones up on the south side, you know, some of the more landscaped and managed environments have a better chance. Those wild environments are prone to the droughts and prone to getting affected by the conditions that we have. But the urban environments, like where the apple tree is growing in the sidewalk on Columbia, that's more of a contrived environment that we have irrigation. We're helping that environment survive. We're keeping close tabs on those trees, right? And that apple tree is town owned. So
Yeah.
that is a tree that you guys can have total control over, where
Right.
the ponderosa pine is privately owned.
So we're familiar at Open Space, just to add to what you're saying, with Jason's work
Mhm.
in Bear Creek in particular,
Mhm.
the addition of pheromone packets on the Douglas fir in particular. And he has told us that, yes, what you're saying, it's likely, but that the Doug fir will likely be the succession tree.
Right, and the MCH.
That's why we're trying to preserve it by putting the pheromone.
The MCH packets are a very affordable method to offer some security.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. If you put the packet on the tree, it won't survive for sure, but it helps.
Thank you very much.
You're
If
welcome.
no one has any more questions of Tyler,
Thank you, Tyler.
we need the science.
Mm.
Yeah. Kristen, did you have anything else? I just to say, Sheriff, thank you for asking the basic question, why are we here? That's always a good question. to
Appreciate
start
that.
with, right?
For sure.
So you've introduced us to some of the implications, which have just, I think our heads are kind of spinning
Yes.
right now.
And this is
What is
just
our
that.
homework and what is the intention of that? And
Sure.
how can we be productive in this process?
Excellent.
I have
So-
some ideas, but yeah.
Yes, so this was just the framing and looping you in and preparing you for some busy work we have in the months ahead. Yourselves, Hark, and Town Council as well. Between now and the next P&Z meeting on the 26th of March, you will receive in advance a packet that outlines potential land use code revisions. And that includes questions for this group that will be discussion questions during that meeting to really get this conversation started in terms of implications for a number of different elements of our current land use code and the direction we want to move forward in as a town. So we'll give you the guidance you need, questions to think about, and then at the next meeting, also provide a deeper dive on what is the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code, answering your questions, describing to you the very specifics. Here's the exceptions. Here's how this works in the landscape. And then being able to visually show you how that then will require those changes to our land use code. I think it's very interesting. A number of very interesting topics got brought up. And thank you, Tyler, for being here as well. That might be opportunities. And just as one, the Heritage Tree Program is certainly, something we can consider. And I think I appreciate all the comments because we will respond to all of those with more extensive background and information at the next meeting. I promise this one would go just until 7, and I think we're right on the mark of not going longer. And so thank you for coming. Thank you for having this initial conversation, and we'll revisit this in 2 weeks.
I have a couple things that I'd like the commission to think about.
Sure.
After the meeting, and how many were there on, I think it was March 2nd, anyone?
I didn't.
Kathy
even
and
know
I were
about it.
at the meeting.
Who sponsored that?
This is Telluride Foundation.
Oh,
Brought together different agencies to talk about the resiliency code and that it was coming. There was the fire chief, there was the guy from the Western Regional Wildfire Council. Is that the term? We were at another event, so I got there and Kathy and I both later. Dan, I don't know if you were there. There was no one from the town of Telluride. who attended that I could see. And the presentation was all about like this. Mountain Village Forester was there. Well, he talked about some fundamentals, but most of the people there, I think, already knew about them. So it wasn't very highly targeted presentation in terms of being detailed. At one point, someone asked, well, what's our evacuation route? And the fire chief said, well, I don't know, kind of depends. I don't think that was the answer that the public felt confident about, but anyway, the thing I would like to recommend, and Tyler, hang on a second, is that the town follows up with what I'm calling a Ready, Set, Go wildfire readiness meeting, and it needs to happen in May when everybody's back. It's to explain what Ready, Set, Go means, what kind of things you need to have in your ready bag, what to expect from all the utilities when they cut off the power, when they cut off the water, the sewer, or, any of those communications that might be affected, cell phone towers, what you should have in terms of your valuables, either to gather it at ready or to have them all, and even in advance, don't wait for that ready signal. I think that would be extremely helpful. There may be more need for more than one. The Lawson Hill meeting or property evaluation that Kathy mentioned, very valuable. Maybe that's something we establish as part of a subcommittee to talk about how to go beyond what this code does in terms of existing to make us more of a safe place. The other thing that wasn't brought up was if we have to shelter in place, where are those places? It was meant as a comment period on the introduction of this code, but it didn't really answer what we do. And I think that we're all doers for the most part. We want to know a little more information. So that's something I would wonder for us to think about, how to get ready for this wildfire season in particular. And then the long term, to think about the effects of what this is going to mean in terms of our heat island once we remove trees in town, whether for the reasons that Tyler's saying or as a result in the long term of what this code application is, and to come up with maybe some ideas about how we advance beyond just what the code is laying on us from the top down, what we can do at our level and be innovative and progressive in our thinking, looking at other communities, what they're doing, especially others with historic districts, as to how to have something left. So Tyler, you want to?
Yeah, I just
comment?
wanted to add, I think that the state doing this is super progressive. I think that if the state didn't do anything, eventually all the development that we've done in Colorado in the urban wildland interface, that's the forested zone that we are developing really densely. Think Mountain Village, ski ranches, Raspberry Patch, all those different ones where you have pretty dense development within the forest, right, or right on the edge of the forest. If we will have more fires, there will be more house losses. It's just going to happen with warmer and drier state of Colorado. So what the state is doing is really trying to save itself, save its economy. Because if we have more fires and insurance companies refuse to insure us, then where are we? We can't develop, we can't build a house without a mortgage, right? So it's really trying to save the Colorado culture of building homes in the wildland urban interface and doing it in a way that is more safe into the future. So I think that's why we're seeing this just mandated across the state for every municipality and county, and there's no choice. Because if there was a choice, people wouldn't want to, change what they already have. But the choice is forced so that you don't have a horrible consequence of nobody in the state being able to insure their home.
Yeah, there was an insurance presentation at that meeting too. Yeah, Dave.
You know, coming from Florida where, I've gone through hurricanes and seen the after effects of that, I think something that's a good takeaway from all this is how much this is all overlapping with not only landscaping, but, once that does burn, how all of a sudden we have stormwater issues, how this will affect our design guidelines for HARC. There's so much overlap, including building code and the strengthening of our buildings. And so I think that it's a good opportunity to really take this seriously and looking at a broad scale. Certainly with as much expertise as we have on this board.
Yeah, so I encourage everybody in our homework to think out of the box.
Nice.
Canyon, no pun intended.
Thank you so much. I think that's the perfect.
Okay.
Into this meeting.
Any other?
Peter wanted to say something.
I think
but-
I find it I
please.
find it a little ironic. We're dealing with a lot of wildfire kind of stuff for good reason. And there's still sort of grumblings about FEMA and flood stuff at the same time, which we're not necessarily in good standing on either. So it's coming from all directions.
Yeah.
For the insurance level.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think floods are.
Yeah,
gonna
if
be
you're
a
not
big
burning,
problem.
you're
Debris
flooding
flows.
or get ready for both. Yeah.
All right, board and staff discussion? Nothing?
Um,
Anybody?
I think the one thing I will just update you while I'm providing you with updates for the next meeting. We will have a work session on the Carhenge project. It'll be your first work session on one of the upcoming town projects at that meeting, and
Which
then Carhenge.
Which?
Oh,
which
at the,
date?
sorry, at the March 26th meeting. We will not have any work sessions in April because that's spring break, and trying to make sure everyone is engaged in those sessions pertaining to projects specifically. But there will be a very robust schedule from in March and then May and on of work sessions on specific projects that you will be engaged in. So
Do you anticipate any more
Yes.
special meetings?
yes, and longer meetings potentially.
Okay.
Thank you.
Quick question, just since I haven't been involved in that and it's coming. How long ago was the Carhenge or the sort of that area last talked about? Was it last year? Fairly recent?
I'd have to look up the date of that. Maybe
Yeah,
we can
last
answer.
fall.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, last fall. And with conceptual plans to collaborate with the ski company, but that is no longer the case.
There's going to be some background description of how we got to where we are or what that is.
I would expect so.
Yeah.
And a packet will be posted in advance of the meeting for your review and all the rest, and a staff memo, et cetera. So absolutely we'll give you the background.
We're going to have a well-attended meeting, I hope.
Except by myself.
Oh, you're not, okay.
I'm recused.
Oh,
Kathy will be conducting the meeting.
Great.
I will be out of the room. If there are other items on the agenda, I can come back, but otherwise, Todd, have you clarified your situation?
No.
I have the same question.
Because you own unit there, yes.
Are you, is your question about?
Fine.
proximity?
That's right, yeah.
So this is really important.
Yeah. And Entrada, which is where I live, what's the radius for that? Because
That would be,
Close, 'cause
you
Because
should
it's
check in
property boundary.
Shandoka.
Yeah.
I'm not in
Yeah.
Shandoka, but I'm
You
right
should
across
check.
the river.
Yeah, I would check with Tiffany and or legal
Yes.
department, Kevin or
Well,
Ally.
and we have them check us
Yes.
rather than us.
Well, yeah.
Well, let me know if there's a potential that you have to recuse yourself, and then I will speak with.
Charles as well, he has a unit.
Great.
working.
Okay, so I will, let's be I'll be in touch with each of you, and our team and Ally, between us, we will provide you with clarity on whether you need to recuse. So we need to understand your specific situation and specifically where you live.
I
Great.
would caution you as commissioners to remain neutral in the public eye, because it's important that we have neutrality and apply fairness to any deliberation on a public hearing or even a work session. So if you attend any of the meetings that are coming up that are public, please don't express any opinions so that you don't prejudice your self on this commission. So please remain neutral about all of it. Don't talk to your neighbors. You might not even talk to your spouse.
Well said. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's just a cautionary thing so that we can have deliberations in spirit of fairness.
Excellent. Thank you. And that's all I have for this evening.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming for an extra meeting this evening.
Right, we adjourn with unanimous consent. At, hang on, 7, never rely on that one,
How'd we do?
7:09.
7:09, thank you, got it right.
9 minutes. Thank you.